November 26, 2018. General Motors, an American icon, dropped a bombshell. They were closing plants, slashing jobs, 14,000 in all. It was a gut punch, especially in the industrial heartland. Places like Ohio, Michigan, Maryland, they'd be hit hard. The news spread like wildfire, workers were in shock, unions were outraged, politicians, well, they did what politicians do, they pointed fingers. But one voice boomed louder than the rest, President Trump. He'd promised to bring back manufacturing jobs. Now, here was GM, a company he'd often praised, doing the exact opposite. It was a betrayal, he claimed, a slap in the face to American workers. GM's explanation was simple: survival. The auto industry was changing, fast. Consumers were shifting away from sedans, those gas-guzzling behemoths, towards SUVs and trucks. And then there was the electric revolution, with Tesla leading the charge. GM couldn't afford to be left behind. They needed to adapt, to invest in new technologies, electric vehicles, self-driving cars, the whole shebang. And that, they argued, required painful but necessary cuts. They'd shift production to plants that could build these vehicles of the future. They'd streamline their operations, become leaner, meaner. It was a cold, calculated business decision, the kind that keeps CEOs up at night. But for the workers losing their livelihoods, it was anything but simple. The impact was devastating. In places like Lordstown, Ohio, where GM had been a lifeline for decades, the closure of the local plant sent shockwaves through the community. Thousands of jobs gone, businesses shuttered, homes foreclosed. These were families, communities, entire towns built on the back of American manufacturing. Now they were being left behind, sacrificed at the altar of globalization and technological disruption. The American dream, it seemed, was turning into a nightmare. And it wasn't just happening in the US. In Canada, GM's decision to close their plant in Oshawa, Ontario sparked similar outrage and despair. The message was clear: in the ruthless world of global capitalism, loyalty was a luxury few could afford. Trump's fury, a clash of visions. Trump was apoplectic. His face turned red, his voice boomed, and his gestures were more animated than ever. This was a man who had built his political identity on the promise of restoring American greatness, and now he felt betrayed. He'd staked his presidency on reviving American manufacturing, on bringing jobs back from overseas. The heartland of America, with its sprawling factories and hardworking citizens, was supposed to be the bedrock of his economic vision. He had promised these workers a renaissance, a return to the golden age of American industry. And here was GM, a company that had benefited from his tax cuts and deregulation, turning around and doing exactly what he'd vowed to stop. The irony was palpable. GM, once a symbol of American industrial might, was now seen as a turncoat in Trump's narrative. He lashed out at GM's CEO, Mary Barra. In his eyes, she was the face of corporate betrayal. He accused her of abandoning American workers, of prioritizing profits over people. His words were sharp, his tone unforgiving. He threatened to cut off their government subsidies. This was no idle threat, it was a declaration of economic war. Trump was willing to use every tool at his disposal to bend GM to his will. He even floated the idea of imposing tariffs on imported cars. This was a bold move, one that could have far-reaching consequences for the global auto industry. But for Trump, it was a necessary step to protect American jobs. The message was clear: you don't mess with Donald J. Trump, especially when it comes to American jobs. But GM held firm. They were not easily intimidated, and they had their own vision for the future. They had a plan, they insisted, a plan for the future. This plan involved innovation, sustainability, and a shift towards electric vehicles. GM was looking ahead, not back, and that plan didn't involve clinging to the past no matter how much the president blustered and raged. GM was committed to evolving with the times, to embracing new technologies and new markets. It was a clash of visions, between a nostalgic yearning for a bygone era and a cold-eyed embrace of the forces reshaping the world. On one side, a president who wanted to turn back the clock. On the other, a corporation that was looking to the future. This was more than just a political battle. It was a fundamental disagreement about the direction of the American economy. The electric revolution, driving the future. In this chapter, we delve into the transformative journey of the automotive industry, spearheaded by the rise of electric vehicles. The rise of electric vehicles was a key factor in GM's decision. The shift towards electric mobility wasn't just a trend, it was a necessity driven by environmental concerns and the need for sustainable energy solutions. Tesla, the upstart automaker led by the enigmatic Elon Musk, had shown that there was a market for sleek high-performance EVs. Musk's vision and relentless pursuit of innovation had disrupted the industry, proving that electric cars could be both desirable and practical. Traditional automakers, slow to adapt, were now playing catch-up. The once dominant giants of the industry found themselves scrambling to develop their own electric models, realizing that the future was electric. GM was investing heavily in electric and autonomous vehicle technology. The company poured resources into research and development, aiming to create cutting-edge vehicles that would redefine transportation. They'd even set a goal of going all electric by 2035. This ambitious target underscored GM's commitment to leading the charge in the electric revolution. It was a bold move, a gamble on the future. The decision to transition entirely to electric vehicles required not only technological advancements but also a shift in corporate strategy and culture. But it was also a recognition that the internal combustion engine, the workhorse of the 20th century, was on its way out. The era of gasoline-powered cars was drawing to a close, making way for a cleaner, greener future. This wasn't just about cars. It was about the future of transportation, of energy, of the planet itself. The shift to electric vehicles was part of a broader movement towards sustainability and environmental stewardship. And in this race, GM was determined not to be left in the dust. The company was committed to innovation, striving to stay ahead in the rapidly evolving landscape of electric mobility, ensuring a sustainable and prosperous future for all. Globalization versus nationalism, a defining struggle. The battle between GM and Trump went beyond the auto industry. It was a confrontation that encapsulated the tension between two powerful forces shaping our world today. It was a microcosm of a larger struggle playing out on the world stage: globalization versus nationalism. This struggle is not just about economics, but about identity, sovereignty, and the future of international relations. Trump's America First agenda, with its tariffs and protectionist policies, was a rejection of the interconnected global economy. He aimed to bring jobs back to American soil, to prioritize American workers and industries. GM, on the other hand, was a multinational behemoth with operations and supply chains spanning the globe. Their business model relied on the efficiencies and cost savings of a globalized economy. Their decision to restructure was a reflection of this reality. They needed to adapt to a rapidly changing global market to stay competitive and profitable. They were answerable to shareholders, to consumers, to the bottom line. Every decision was scrutinized through the lens of financial performance and market expectations. National borders, in their view, were becoming increasingly irrelevant. The flow of goods, services, and capital across these borders was essential to their success. It was a clash of ideologies, a fundamental disagreement about the nature of the modern world. On one side, the push for a more integrated global community; on the other, the desire to protect national interests and identities. And it was a debate with no easy answers. The stakes were high and the outcomes uncertain. This defining struggle would shape the future of our world in ways we could only begin to imagine. The road ahead: uncertainty and opportunity. The future of American manufacturing, and indeed the global economy, remained uncertain. The rise of automation, the shift to renewable energy, the increasing interconnectedness of the world, these forces were reshaping the landscape at an unprecedented pace. The challenge for policymakers, business leaders, and workers alike was to adapt to this new reality, to find ways to thrive in a world in constant flux. There would be winners and losers, opportunities and dislocations. But one thing was clear: the old ways of doing things were gone, swept away by the relentless tide of change.